Here we are. Excellent. Hi, thanks for being in a new video. This time I have with me a Samsung OLED monitor that we're going to review. Let's get started. This is a 49-inch Samsung Odyssey G9 in the OLED edition. Remember that Samsung has several models of monitors, so it could vary from one to another in little tidbits. So I put them in the description for you. The official link in case you want to purchase it directly with Samsung. Its price is not low, because remember that we are in front of an OLED monitor. OLED technology is always more expensive, so this will be no exception. At the time of recording this video, it has a price of $39,899. On the screen, you see the reference price in dollars, although obviously this can vary because remember that the prices here are not the same as those there. Even over time, the price will vary. Having mentioned all that, let me tell you that this monitor is practically a TV. So, it has a dual experience because it allows you to access streaming platforms, it allows you to watch Samsung TV Plus, and it even comes with a remote control. So the experience is very similar to what we see on a TV. However, because of the design and other features, we are obviously talking about a monitor. Let's start by talking about the design. I think this is one of its most important and most remarkable aspects because of the OLED technology, which causes two main benefits. The first, that the screen is extremely thin, and the second, that it has the ability to be a curved screen. So combining these two aspects, the resulting design is spectacular. We have something very attractive that also comes complemented because in the back we will find RGB lights in the purest style of gamers to attract them. And these lights, you can turn them off in case you're like me, you don't like them. But in case you want to have those lights on, you can access the settings in the section called Core Lighting. And here we're going to be able to select a few different modes. The default mode is called Core Sync, and it allows you to synchronize the color of the items that the monitor is displaying with the color of the lights to give you a little bit more of an extended perspective if your room is dark and with a wall that can reflect those colors. I must say that the light is with a low intensity, so if you need a considerably dark room to make these effects a little more noticeable, you can specifically select the color you want from the entire palette that is available. Or you can also select a few different effects such as Aurora, Aurora Rotation, Comet, Static, Rainbow and Breathing. So there is no doubt that the design is one of the most attractive points, and you have to consider also the base of the monitor, which is good in the sense that it doesn't use too much space on your desk, as the bottom surface is completely flat. And it also lets you adjust the rotation of the screen so you can view the content the way you like. I think it is enough the angle that has a margin to be able to adjust. And we can also adjust the height, you just have to exert a little more pressure. This would be the lowest setting. So you can adjust it perfectly. One element that I generally dislike about most monitors is the placement of the ports. And this one is going to be no exception. They are placed on the back. Fortunately, they don't have any covers, because at least in my case, I tend to be constantly plugging and unplugging things in and out. But if you're a user who's going to leave everything plugged in and you're not going to make many changes, this probably won't come to affect your experience. On this inside, we have a micro HDMI connector, 2.1. We also have a full-size HDMI connector, a full-size DisplayPort connector, and on the other side, we're going to find 3 USB-C ports so you can connect a mouse or a keyboard to it. Because notice how on the productivity side, we can access Microsoft 365 or a web browser. So if the need to have a computer connected, the monitor independently can give you some smart options. However, I think that very few users are going to use these options since most will have a computer connected. But you should know that it does have the capabilities. Now let's talk about the controls we have for this monitor. One detail that I didn't like is that the monitor has no buttons. So, in order to turn it on, you necessarily need the controller. I think this is an aspect that should be completely improved for the next generation. I don't see a need for them to add navigation buttons or a lot of buttons, but just the power button. It's nowhere to be found. So hopefully they will improve it for the next generation. So everything will be limited to control it through its remote control that looks like a TV control. We have power button, voice command button. That's something interesting because through voice you can ask it to open some application or something similar. navigation buttons, play button, volume buttons, channel buttons, and direct access to both Netflix and Disney+, Prime Video, and Samsung TV+. So we have access to different platforms, as I was mentioning. Or you can also add the monitor to your cell phone through the Samsung SmartThings app. And here we will also see a good number of options and buttons to control all the options and parameters of our monitor. In fact, we can also calibrate the monitor using the camera of our cell phone and many other options. And something that I find curious is that through the application we can also access the sensors that this monitor has because it brings a sound sensor. And here he explains that it could detect, for example, the barking of a dog. And that could also trigger some Samsung SmartThings routines. So it's interesting in this section. It also has a light sensor that likewise could automatically trigger a routine so that in case the room is already a little bit darker, it would automatically turn on your light or something similar. Those kinds of features I think are very strong points in its favor that normally don't stand out much when looking at the specifications of a monitor. It also has the option to share your cell phone camera with this monitor because it has Google Meet support. So you could also make video calls without the need for a connected computer. As you can see now in my room called Studio, there are already these two sensors for both sound and light, so I can use them to control other smart devices. So in the control section, the truth is that we have very good things, excellent I would say, but also very bad things like the fact that it has no physical buttons. The image quality will undoubtedly be very good. This monitor has support for HDR-X Plus graphics, even HDR-X Plus gaming. So we have a super good viewing experience. The screen is 49 inches in its diagonal, so it offers ultra-widescreen viewing. Although that will also cause that, if you're going to use it to watch traditional content like videos, movies, or series, it won't take advantage of all the full space. Although speaking of that, it also has a feature called multi-view where, for example, we could project our cell phone screen and take advantage of the space a little more. However, this multi-view function is not available with all applications or all features. For example, YouTube does not support this, nor does Netflix, but if you have your computer connected, you can get to use these spaces with the cell phone screen projected wirelessly. But let's continue talking about the quality of the image. Since being OLED, it has a perfect contrast and also the brightness can become very high, which is much appreciated in HDR graphics. The resolution is 5120 by 1440 pixels. I believe it is considerably good for making a lot of use of space and anyway, viewing detailed content. We have excellent viewing angles even though it's a curved screen, so if you view the content from the side, it's still going to be excellent quality. And the refresh rate can go up to 240 Hz, ideal for gamers. In other gamer sections, it would have a response time of 0.03 milliseconds. And to be more precise, the curvature of the screen is 1800R. It has FreeSync Premium Pro and has the Neo Quantum Pro processor, a processor that Samsung uses in its televisions. This is in order to improve picture quality. So even if you're watching old content or content that's not in a high resolution, it's going to give us good detail. So even motion I perceive quite well. In this case, I'm watching a Samsung TV Plus channel, but the same thing is going to happen with whatever source you're playing. The processor optimizes the content with very good quality. However, one small detail that I don't really like is that although it does have an eye care mode, that mode can't really be used when you have a computer connected in ultra-wide format. So you have some picture modes here. We have echo, film, dynamic, or standard. But I insist that if you move over here to the eye care mode section, you can turn it on if you have some other application or if you're using the computer in a non-wide format. Notice how in this case I have connected a computer with this ultra widescreen format. However, if I go into the settings, you'll notice that it's in game mode, which we'll talk about later. But for now, let me show you that if I try to go into the settings to enable some visual sleep mode and I try to enable it, it's going to tell me that it's not possible. Let me set it here to low, for example, and notice how the screen kind of disconnects. It's going to reconnect and it's no longer going to be in the ultra widescreen format, but now it appears as if the screen is stretched. From my point of view, this should be corrected with some update, but I honestly don't know if they are going to release it. So, That's something that I found a bit strange. So, ultra widescreen mode will only be available if you don't use eye care. Fortunately, it does let you enter an expert settings parameter, where you can move parameters like brightness, contrast, sharpness, color, and tint without the need to go out of ultra widescreen mode, which does help a little bit, but I definitely wish you could use the eye care mode even with this mode to take advantage of the entire screen. But outside of these details, the viewing experience is actually very good, offering very vivid colors and very high contrast thanks to the OLED technology it integrates. In that sense, I have no complaints, since the colors and everything look of very good quality. And as I say, thanks to the processor that brings, you could also get to perfect a little bit the content of some series or movies if you want to see them here. Now let's talk about the sound. Because fortunately the monitor does have built-in speakers. That means you won't need additional speakers on your desk, and that saves you a lot of space. Plus, it's a considerably good sound. Let's put it to the test, although remember, it's not the same as listening to it live. Of course, it's not going to be a thunderous sound, nor could we tell you that it's studio quality sound or anything like that. Obviously, whoever is going to do something specifically audio is going to buy external professional monitors, but for the vast majority of users and for gamers, I think the speakers are pretty good. Mainly because being such a wide monitor, also the speakers give you this wider sound and they do give you the immersive experience. I personally played a bit with this monitor, and you can really feel when the sound comes from the left or the right. An experience that can become very good for all those who are going to buy this monitor to play. Now let me tell you some details of the system of this monitor, because it comes with Tizen, an operating system developed by Samsung that has driven quite a lot and has been improving over time. This system is also going to find it in Samsung TVs. However, you can see that the proposals may be different in this sidebar. In this case, we have a general search bar. We also have the workspace section that will be where you can quickly log into your computer, but for example, you could also quickly connect to your cell phone if it is a Galaxy. Notice how I'm going to click that. I want to start my cell phone in Samsung DeX. It will automatically ask me on the phone if I want to enter this mode. And notice how we are going to be able to use our phone in a windowed format, although again it does not use the full width of the screen. However, I think most people who are going to buy this monitor are going to be for gaming. So this kind of additional options may not interest them much, but I still want to show the full operation of the monitor. In this workspace section, we could also access Google Meet or Microsoft 365 through the web browser, if we connect a mouse and keyboard to it, either wired or wirelessly. So we could perfectly well also get to work some basic things on the web browser without the need to connect a computer to it, because all of this is running directly on the monitor. Here he gives us some other suggestions and serves to tell you that you can not only project the screen of your computer or your Mac via cable, but you can also get to do it wirelessly, although it has some delay. But for some use cases it might come in handy. However, I think the vast majority of users will connect their computer via cable. So let's go to the next section, which is gaming. In this case, you should know that this monitor already has Samsung Gaming Hub. That is, you can play content from the cloud without the need to connect a computer. Something that is quite convenient, but you should know that being content that is running remotely on an Xbox, it will not give us the ultra widescreen format, but again will give us a more traditional format. You can connect an Xbox controller to the monitor and they will link perfectly, and through this controller I insist that I can play in the cloud. I'm going to open up some content, and just so you're sure, disconnect the computer completely so that everything runs from the cloud on the monitor. In this case, the splash screen, if you try to use more or less the full width of this monitor. Here it tells you which service you want to play it with, because it supports Xbox, also GeForce Now, or also Boosteroid Cloud Gaming. Probably in the future, more cloud gaming services may appear. In my case, I have my subscription with Xbox, so I'm going to start the game from there. This is one of the most exciting things about the monitor. However, hopefully Samsung will improve this service in collaboration with Microsoft to be able to offer us the ultra widescreen format. I'm gonna log in with Game Pass and come back when I'm done. Notice how I'm already playing perfectly from the monitor and from the cloud. It has a slight latency that has to be emphasized because the strictest gamers will surely notice it. It should also be said that this whole experience is going to depend a lot on the quality of your internet connection. However, I love that we're already starting to see these kinds of features directly on a monitor. I imagine that in a few years this experience will be seamless and it will basically be the end of consoles because you're just going to buy your monitor and that's it, you're going to be able to play. Here I am about to lose because I am a bad gamer, but well, the point of this is simply to see the features of the monitor and not for you to see my skills as a gamer. In a moment, we will return to the topic of gaming with a laptop connected, but for now, let me continue to show you that we also have access to the multimedia category, where we have the different streaming platforms that we can access to view content. In this part, it is going to show us recommendations of the different platforms, and remember that it is also compatible with Alexa to control other home devices, either by voice or through your special dashboard. You can also enter the applications section where you will be able to explore more options. So here you can install other platforms that may not come pre-installed, but they are available, as you could even listen to music through Spotify or log into Twitch or any other platform that is usually available on Samsung TVs will also appear here. In fact, you will also be able to find some games that you can install directly on this monitor, but obviously they will be executed locally, so they are very simple and casual games, but it is striking that a monitor has all these capabilities. In addition, as I anticipated, it can receive screen projection wirelessly and not only from a Galaxy device but also from devices of other brands including Apple, since it does have AirPlay technology. So notice how in this case I don't have any cables connected, and here on Mac I'm simply going to select that I want to mirror the screen and the available monitor will appear. In this case, I had already given it a pre-authorization, and so it immediately did the projection for me and enabled multi-view mode. Wirelessly, you cannot project in the ultra-wide format, so on this side of the screen you could have some other content. Although remember that not all are compatible for this multi-view format. Or you can simply select that you want a single task displayed on the screen. In this case, I am going to project a presentation so that you can see how perfectly I can have in Mac the moderator view, and then on the screen see absolutely everything. So certainly supporting this kind of wireless projection makes it have more capabilities. Also, from an iPhone in the control center, you can select that you want to duplicate the screen, just insert the code it gives you, and that's it. So simple, you can make the projection, and I insist that the screen gives much priority to multi-view, although in this case told us here that multi-view was going to be closed. So notice how in this case I connected the Mac via cable and the iPhone wirelessly, so I have both views on screen, which might be useful for some people who want to work with more space and need to see information from their cell phone at the same time. And by the way, now that I have a Mac connected to this display, let me give you the curious and important fact that if you want to enjoy a Mac with the full width space, you need to use a DisplayPort cable. If you use an HDMI cable, it doesn't take up the full space on the screen, so consider that. Something important you should know is that not all games are compatible with ultra-wide mode, although I'm sure you already knew that because you are a specialized gamer, but I didn't know that and I wanted to tell you because I consider it a very relevant piece of information. So let me switch to a game that does support ultra-wide mode so you can appreciate the full capabilities of this monitor. Although even in that case, notice how you could have here through your windows some other additional information or similar things while you're playing. So either way, having such a wide monitor gives you room for a lot more viewing without interrupting your game viewing. However, look at the fully immersive experience we have in this other game. It's definitely extremely nice to play with so much sideways perspective. This, I think, does give you a very important competitive advantage if you are one of those gamers who are already in a much more demanding environment.
Un momento. Oigan, estamos en un cine. Seguir derecho no es una opción. ¿Cuánto queda de más?
Vamos a explorar. Ustedes vayan a la derecha, Marcos y yo iremos a la izquierda. Encontraremos esos hilos.
Suena bien, pero sigamos en contacto. ¿Estamos seguros de esto? 2 hilos, 2 caminos. ¿Alguna idea mejor? La escotilla, baja.
Esto parece un tipo de túnel de escape, pero ¿viene de un silo?
Solo hay una forma de saberlo.
Now note that in this section everything is very dark. If we press and hold the play button on the controller, we will be able to access different game modes where we can change more or less the display that the screen is showing us. So this could also give you a competitive advantage in the darker areas so that you have a better visualization. Also on this screen or on this gaming bar we also have the frame per second count and also whether HDR and VRR is working. In fact, you could also enable a point so that it's always marking your crosshairs or your target for shooting. So again, it can actually give you a competitive advantage. ¿Y luego cómo recargo tú, Paulín? Ah, genial. Bravo. ¿Con cuál cambio de arma? Esta cosa que sé qué es. Well, I just lost in front of the whole audience. Wonderful. And here we have it. Regardless of my poor gaming capabilities, the monitor is definitely spectacular. I think it's very much geared towards gamers, and it's definitely going to give those types of people a supreme experience because of how wide it is and the image quality it can display. For the moment, we've come to the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it a lot. If you did, you know you can